This one ingredient right here is going to change the way you think about beef tips. I'm serious. These little chunky tips of beef are found in so many recipes, in so many different cultures, and for some reason we haven't had a great plant-based meat substitute, not until recently. And that's when Beyond came out with theirs. But I will say we actually have had this substitute for a long time, and it comes in the form of a textured protein. Specifically, these textured protein chunks right here. Now, these chunks are specifically from today's sponsor, fakemeats.com. A little bit more on that later, but for right now, let's check out protein chunks. How to use them, what to do with them, and why you're just gonna absolutely love them. Now, with this type of protein chunk, you can literally flavor it however you like. You can just toss it in the pan, heat it up, season it, and then you're good to go. It could just be a very plain meat, some seasoning. But with these right here, we're gonna make steak. Pretty much I wanna try to copy the Beyond steak today. And that's gonna be easy, so let me show you how. First thing that you need is your textured protein chunks. Now, these chunks specifically are made out of a defatted soy flour. It's just soy protein is all it is. 100% one ingredient. We're going to use 2 cups of that, and I'm just going to toss it right into a saucepan. Now, for flavoring, I'm going to be using some nutritional yeast, a little bit of garlic powder, onion powder, beetroot powder. And I'm going to use a yeast extract. You can use Marmite or Vegemite. Both will have a very similar result in the end. Now, it may seem odd, but red wine vinegar does have a slight taste to it that adds to the flavor of meat. Specifically red wine vinegar. Now, you can use apple cider vinegar or like a rice vinegar. Any vinegar is going to help. Now, I'm just going to add a little bit of olive oil, mix that up, and then add in 2 cups of water to cover it up. And we're going to throw that over about a medium heat-ish and just kind of bring it up to a simmer and then cover it up and let it boil for about 30 minutes. Now, after the 30 minutes, you're going to see that all of that liquid has been sucked up by this protein. They're completely hydrated up. Now, you can see that the color isn't quite right. And after I give them a taste, I kind of remember why. So normally I add blackstrap molasses. That will give this a slightly irony taste and really brings out the meaty flavor. And then I do like to add a little bit of soy sauce. Now, if you're trying to make this gluten-free, go with some like liquid aminos or something. Now, at this point, I want to press these. 1, they're too hydrated, and 2, they're a little spongy at the moment. So I really want them to get them like really nice and firm. I'm going to be using a tofu press, but you could just use like 2 pans together, do like the Derek Sarno method. There's a few ways of doing it, but if you have a tofu press, fill that thing up and just start pressing. I'm going to press these, throw them in the fridge for at least like an hour or 2, but you could just let them sit overnight. Honestly, that might even be the best. Which is plenty of time for me to tell you about today's sponsor, fakemeats.com. Fakemeats.com is my go-to spot for all of my fake meats needs, including this lineup of plant-based vegetable protein. These are textured vegetable proteins. These are like the same textured proteins that are used in like Beyond or Impossible, but without all of the extra added ingredients. These are just plain protein. And Plant Basics has taken the meat substitutes back to the basics. They have 4 varieties, including the classic round texture vegetable protein, it's made from soy. Crumbles are my new favorite, very similar to like the original classic, but made with pea protein and a little bit larger texture. The strips are your larger pieces, like you would think strips, except these are round. You can slice them to be flat little chunks. And chunks. Use them in things where you need that bigger, chunkier, meatier bite, like what we're making today. So gang, if you want to make today's recipe, you can pick up the chunks over at fakemeats.com, or if you want to make any other recipe where I use a textured protein, this is your place to get it. They have an exclusive sale for Saucestache viewers where you're going to get 15% off the Plant Basics protein. Use coupon code SAUCE22 and that lasts through January of 2023. Fakemeats.com, thanks for sponsoring today's video and providing me with these epic textured proteins. And we're back. See, it wasn't that bad. So for me, you cannot have a beef tip sandwich without having big chunks of button cap mushrooms in it. So I'm just gonna grab a handful of button cap mushrooms, and if you don't do this, just pour your remaining mushrooms into a brown paper bag, top it with a little paper towel, toss it in the fridge. It's gonna last like a week longer. Now we're gonna take our mushrooms and wash them. Now I know what you're gonna say. You can't wash mushrooms, you can't get them wet, they're gonna soak up all the water, blah. Yeah, well, we've learned that lesson was wrong. And now we're just gonna slice them, toss them into a pan, cover them with a little bit of salt, cover them with water, and then we're gonna boil the mushroom. We wanna boil the mushrooms until the water is completely reduced. And then I walk away for a second and all of the water is gone and I almost destroyed my pan. So I'm gonna toss a little bit of oil into this and toss them around for just a moment. We just need to kind of brown these up. Okay, so the mushrooms are cooking. Grab your meat from the fridge. We need to drain that liquid. We're gonna save it. And then, these look amazing. I'm so excited. They're very dense. It has the exact same density as like the Beyond, maybe just slightly tougher, which is really what I wanted. So we're just gonna pull these out. The mushrooms are cooked, toss them into the pan. Now, at this point, we're just gonna finish them off, give them a taste, see what you think it needs. Does it need a little bit like of acidity, some saltness? It probably doesn't. I'm just gonna add some black pepper, kind of letting it sit just on one side so that way it can brown, and then stirring it up kind of frequently. Now, if you remember from the intro, there was this like white sauce on top, and I was kind of going back and forth on whether or not I should just buy this or make this. But this is just a horseradish sauce. Now, I made this earlier, so let me show you really quick how to make that, because it's pretty easy, but I definitely took the long way. So I'm just starting with about a cup of plant-based milk. I'm using the Wonder Milk, along with a teaspoon of agar-agar, and then I'm gonna be using just a pinch of lactic acid. It's about 1/8 of a teaspoon. And what we're gonna do is kick the heat up, whisk this in, and then allow it to come to a boil. Now, in a separate bowl, I'm gonna be adding about 2 to 3 tablespoons of horseradish. This is prepared horseradish. Okay, the sour milk is boiled. I'm gonna pour it into a measuring cup. I only need about 1/2 of a cup of the total mixture here, and about 1/4 cup of vegan mayo. Now we're just gonna add that to the bowl with the horseradish, along with some salt, a little bit of black pepper, chives, and some apple cider vinegar. We just need a drop. Now, I just quickly mixed that together, and then we're going to whisk in our agar-agar milk sour mixture. Now, you can understand what I'm trying to make here. I'm making like a sour cream. I could have bought like tofutti, or I could have made it out of tofu. There's a million ways to do this, but I chose the longest way. But as you can see, right now, this is pretty runny. But you can give it a taste and just see if it tastes right. We're gonna toss it in the fridge. It only needs about 20 to 30 minutes to set up. Okay, now back to the meat. So the meat is really cooked. It's nice and browned on all sides. Now we just need to toss in that marinade, give it a few spins with the pan. You can already see how incredibly meaty this stuff looks. I mean, oh my gosh. Now we have our sub bun ready. I'm gonna toss on some chow, which is like a vegan cheese. Has like a nice kind of like creamy taste to it. Load our bun with our meat and mushrooms. I mean, look at the sandwich it's gonna be, and so incredibly meaty. Now it's been 30 minutes. Our sour cream horseradish mixture is settled up. We're gonna whisk that up, and you're gonna wanna whisk it quite a bit because this is set into like a gelatin kind of thing, and we wanna whisk it into so it's creamy. Dollop that on top of your sandwich, and then look at this. I am so excited for this sandwich, but I forgot the green onion, so I tossed a little bit of those on. But now let's see, what does Monica have to say?
Oh, that's really good.
Intense.
Really nice and firm.
Yeah.
Tastes like a piece of meat.
Yeah. Okay.
It really does.
Come on.
Yeah, this is delicious.
Yeah. Okay. Give your rundown.
Really good. Steak flavor, steak bite. I actually think these are a little better than the Beyond ones, to be honest. Like, the Beyond ones are great. I really like them. But these actually have a better steaky bite. Like, those kind of almost have more of like that fatty bite, which is still good, but I like that this tastes more like steak and doesn't give that fatty impression, you know? The inside of this definitely looks like steak. I mean, look at all the fibers in there that just pull apart, you know? So it has that, you know, feeling when you bite into it too.
Doing this test, I figured this was gonna come out. This is kind of like the method for using these chunks anyways. Essentially what I did was just gave it a really nice steaky flavor. Using the tofu press really gave it that really nice firm texture. You know, just a few pans would also give it, you know, like the Derek Sarno method for like double pressing with 2 iron skillets, pressing down, doing the same thing with these, you know, really give it that nice steaky texture. It needs to be pressed. It doesn't need to be pressed to like remove the moisture. Not necessarily, you are gonna remove some of it, but just like how I did it in the tofu press where it was just kind of soaking in its own moisture, it kind of just helped to give it the texture that I wanted.
I like how you put the whole sandwich together with the mushrooms and the vegan cheese and everything, and the horseradish sauce. This is a 10 for sure. I love this.
Well, there we go.
Delicious.
I think this is gonna change how you view homemade plant-based meat. I really do.
Yeah, get this one.
Yeah.